The alarm clock blared, its shrill sound cutting through the peaceful silence of the early morning. Ugh, already? She hit snooze, her hand moving almost on autopilot, desperate for just a few more minutes of sleep. 9 more minutes of blissful ignorance, a brief escape from the responsibilities of the day. Except wait. Today was going to be different. She had promised herself that today would be the day she turned things around. Today was the day she'd conquer her to-do list. The one that had been growing longer and more daunting with each passing day. The to-do list that had been mocking her from the fridge for weeks. A constant reminder of all the things she had yet to accomplish. Time to become a productivity ninja. She could almost feel the surge of motivation coursing through her veins. She flung back the covers with newfound enthusiasm, ready to take on the world, and promptly tripped over a pile of clothes that had been carelessly discarded on the floor the night before. Okay, maybe a slightly clumsy ninja. She couldn't help but laugh at herself, shaking her head at her own clumsiness. The smell of burnt toast wafted in from the kitchen. Right, breakfast. She'd almost forgotten about the toast she had put in earlier. She stumbled out of bed, narrowly avoiding a rogue sock on the floor, and made her way to the kitchen. Today was a new day. A day full of potential and opportunities, if only she could seize them. A day for green smoothies and avocado toast, not burnt carbs. She opened the fridge only to find it empty. Great. Okay, maybe not that new of a day. Cereal it was. She shrugged and reached for the box of cereal, resigning herself to a less than ideal breakfast. She poured herself a bowl, grabbed her phone and settled down at the kitchen table, ready to start her day. Time to tackle that to-do list. She stared at it with a focused expression, determined to make a dent in it. But first, a quick peek at Instagram, for inspiration. Just a few minutes to see what everyone else was up to. 2 hours later, she looked up, startled by the sound of her own stomach growling. Right, the to-do list. She had gotten completely sidetracked. She sighed, putting down her phone. It was time to get serious. No more distractions. She could do this. She started with the easiest tasks, crossing them off one by one. Each small victory gave her a boost of confidence. After a while, she took a break, sipping on a cup of coffee and feeling a sense of accomplishment. The to-do list was still long, but it was no longer overwhelming. She could see the progress she had made. Today might not have started perfectly, but it was turning out to be a pretty good day after all. She smiled, feeling hopeful for the days to come. The to-do list was ambitious, to say the least. Learn French, write a novel, solve world hunger, all before lunch. Okay, maybe she was being a tad optimistic. She crossed out solve world hunger and replaced it with order takeout. Baby steps. Exercise was next on the agenda. She pulled on her mismatched workout clothes. Time to get physical. She glanced at the clock. Maybe just one more episode of that show everyone was talking about. The problem with working out at home was the complete lack of supervision. Or maybe that was the best part. Either way, it meant that her interpretation of burpees could be charitably described as flailing enthusiastically. She attempted a downward dog, only to get distracted by a cobweb in the corner. Was that a spider? She quickly switched to planks, hoping the spider wouldn't notice her if she stayed perfectly still. Plank time turned into watching Judge Judy while lying face down on the floor time. Hey, at least she was building core strength. Judge Judy was surprisingly motivational. You're telling me you left a diamond necklace in a taxi? Get your life together. She nodded in agreement. Solid advice. Maybe she should become a lawyer or a judge. She could picture it now, banging her gavel. But first, she needed a snack. All this lying around was tiring work. Section 5. The Squirrel of Social Media. Back to the to-do list. Focus. She opened her laptop, determined to make a dent in her workload. She started by checking her email, and then Facebook. And then, oh look, a funny cat video. Her concentration was about as solid as a chocolate teapot. Every notification was like a shiny object, pulling her attention away from the task at hand. She was the human equivalent of a goldfish, constantly distracted by anything remotely sparkly. Section 6. Emails and existential dread. She finally managed to open the document she was supposed to be working on. Blank page. She stared at it, the cursor blinking accusingly. She suddenly felt the urge to rearrange her entire sock drawer. Maybe she should learn how to knit. She checked her email again, hoping for a distraction. Instead, she found a newsletter from a company she didn't remember subscribing to, reminding her that time was fleeting and she was woefully unprepared for retirement. Section 7. Culinary Chaos. Right. Dinner. She decided to try a new recipe she'd found online. It looked easy enough. 1-pan salmon with roasted vegetables. What could go wrong? Turns out quite a lot. The recipe forgot to mention what temperature to preheat the oven to, or how long to cook the salmon for. She opened the oven to check on her culinary masterpiece, only to be greeted by a cloud of smoke that would make a firefighter proud. Section 8. Smoke Detector Symphony. The smoke detector shrieked like an angry banshee. She fumbled for the off switch, fanning the air frantically. The kitchen was now a war zone of burnt fish and questionable vegetables. Maybe takeout was a better option after all. She grabbed her phone and started scrolling through delivery apps. Pizza, sushi, tacos, decisions. Section 9. The Great Takeout Debate. She spent the next half hour agonizing over her takeout options. Was it weird to order pizza 2 nights in a row? Was sushi too fancy for a Tuesday? She scrolled through endless menus, her stomach growling impatiently. Finally, she decided on Thai food. Pad Thai and spring rolls it was. She placed her order with a sigh of relief. Dinner was solved. Now about the rest of that to-do list. Section 10. Panic and procrastination. Panic set in. The clock was ticking and the pressure was mounting. The day was almost over and she'd accomplished practically nothing. The weight of her unfulfilled tasks was crushing her spirit. Her to-do list was mocking her from the table, covered in coffee stains and crumbs. Each unchecked box felt like a personal failure. She still hadn't exercised. Her novel was going nowhere fast. The blank pages seemed to taunt her with every passing minute, and her French vocabulary was limited to bonjour and croissant. The language barrier felt insurmountable, and her motivation was dwindling. She considered making a last-ditch effort to salvage the day. Maybe, just maybe, she could turn things around. Maybe she could squeeze in a quick workout while simultaneously learning French verbs and drafting a chapter outline. Multitasking seemed like the only solution. Or maybe she could just watch another episode of that show. The allure of the couch and the comfort of her favorite series were hard to resist. The internal battle raged on, torn between productivity and procrastination. She knew she had to make a choice, but the decision was far from easy. The clock continued to tick, each second a reminder of the time slipping away. Would she rise to the challenge or succumb to the temptation of another lazy evening? Only time would tell. Section 11. Tomorrow is another day, hopefully. She flopped onto the couch, defeated. The weight of the day had taken its toll, and all she wanted was a moment of peace. The lure of the television was too strong to resist. It promised an escape, a brief respite from the endless tasks that awaited her. She'd tackle that to-do list tomorrow. It wasn't going anywhere, and neither was she, at least for now. Or maybe the day after that. After all, what was one more day in the grand scheme of things? There was no rush, really. The world could wait while she took this moment for herself. Procrastination, she'd learned, was a marathon, not a sprint. It required endurance, a steady pace, and the ability to ignore the nagging voice in her head. And she was in it for the long haul. She had become an expert at delaying the inevitable, finding comfort in the temporary reprieve. Besides, tomorrow was a new day. Anything was possible, right? The dawn brought with it a sense of hope, a chance to start anew. She grabbed the remote and settled in for the night, letting the soft glow of the screen wash over her. The faint scent of burnt salmon lingering in the air was a reminder of her earlier attempt at dinner. But that too could wait. For now, she was content to